Hello. I'm sorry.
Was you yawning? Mid-yawning recording. Oh my god. He panicked. Did everybody hear the panic in his voice? Oh, hello.
Yeah.
Hello, I'm here.
Pride Month, yawn.
Bored now.
I did think it was going to happen. I thought I was going to have time before we started recording, but no, that didn't happen at all. Yeah, so anyway, welcome back.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. I'm going to be 21 years old.
No, you're not. When this goes live, it will be your birthday. How old will you be?
33.
Old.
33. 3 and 3. The 2 3s. I don't feel
Put
like
them together, you're 8.
Yeah, I was going to say. Yeah.
Or 6.
6. I don't feel like I'm going to be 33, to be honest with you. But I'm not that excited about it. You're the one that's like, oh, it's going to be your birthday soon. I'm like, yeah, great. Ooh.
We can't all be boring.
No, it's not boring. It's just the ravages of time affect me so.
Okay.
So anyway, welcome back. We are going into the next episode of Gay Month. I was going to say.
Month. You are not having a good time. I've been up since 4:30. What's your excuse?
I've had a lot to do. It's been a busy day.
Sat on his bum doing now.
What do you mean doing nothing? I have been so busy. So busy. But anyway, yeah, welcome back to episode 2 of Gay Month. And we're going to be going over... Gay Month.
Pride Month.
And we're going to be going over gay men this time round. We did the lesbians last week. We'll do the gays this week. And then we move into the trans and non-binary the week after.
Well, yeah, but we're going to record both today.
You're giving away the mystique.
Oh, no, what's the point in lying about it? We're recording two episodes in one day this week because I'm in London next week.
Yeah, I'm not. So I'm just going to be sat here not talking. So I think...
I doubt that. I think you'll still be sat here talking just to yourself.
Just to me, yeah.
Or the cat.
I won't be doing...
Anybody that'll listen.
I won't be doing a podcast. I'll just be at home podcasting. So I think the first thing we can do is we can start off with... because when I was doing the research for this, I was just saying before we just started recording, why are so many iconic gay men dead?
I don't know.
It's literally like a thing.
And is it all drug related? So I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, happy Pride Month. These men died from drugs. Yeah, it feels a bit weird. It's kind of like, what happened?
I don't know. I couldn't. Oh, okay. We have a suicide. We have. Well, it's all through suicide and drug use, is it not?
Pretty much.
I don't know. Couldn't tell you.
This right
let's
here.
Get off the morbid.
We'll get off it. Yeah, let's move away from that.
Away from the morbid
morbid
statement. That. Yeah, let's move on to your first.
Let's move on to
your
the first
eligible
bachelor. Oh, it's like a dating show.
And who have we got first?
First up, we've got Alan Turing, who is on the £50 note, I believe. Is it? I've
never seen a £50 note in my life.
Neither have I. I'm not that rich.
I'm not that rich. I don't carry 50s.
I'm sure.
Lucky if I've got a tenner.
Post in the comments below if it is the £50 note. If you're from the UK and you're rich and you're listening to this, give us money. But also let us know.
Buy me a coffee.
Yeah. But also let us know if Alan Turing is on the 50. I'm sure he is. But effectively, he was a code breaker. A very great code breaker of his time, and it was during World War II. Where he effectively broke the code from what was being sent back and forth from Nazi Germany, heralded as one of the greatest of his generation. Unfortunately, the tragic side to all of that is that we're going back to the 1950s, and because of his sexuality, back in wonderful 1952, he was chemically castrated because of it, instead of serving time in prison.
That doesn't sound pleasant.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, for all of those that like to, look back at in the beginning of our 19th century, is it? Yeah, it was not a pleasant time to be a homosexual, and unfortunately, even though he did amazing feats for the UK, supposedly even preventing the war or stopping it or bringing, shortening it by many years, he was still chemically castrated for being a gay man.
Well, I said he was chemically castrated, so he chose that over going to prison in 1952. And then in 1954, he committed suicide by cyanide poisoning.
Yeah.
So it was only 2 days 2 years later. Sorry, not 2
Yeah, it
years.
was only 2 years later.
And he committed suicide.
Well, the thought process there was probably that in prison he would have been murdered.
Murdered or raped or...
One of the two. Whereas with chemical castration, he didn't have to serve prison. But the problem with that is then it rendered him, it rendered his everything else unusable, which can obviously have seriously damaging effects on the individual. And that's probably why he decided to end his life. Sad when you think about it.
I love how we're on the depressing side.
I know, yeah, we've kind of come into this all high energy, and now we're like,
well,
now let's talk about chemical castration and
suicide.
Fine, let's move on to who is still currently alive. Raging Queen.
Sir Elton John.
Sir Elton John. Here's the deal, right? And I always use Elton John's name. I always bring it up whenever someone turns around and they're like, well, not whoever, not Paul. He's married with kids. I'm like,
and so
was Elton John. Well, I don't know if he had kids, but he was definitely married, and it was quite the scandal if I recollect when he came out, because people were shocked. And I look back at it and I'm like, Mama, how are you shocked?
Oh, I don't understand how people would be shocked. It's blatantly obvious that he was a raging queen. But at the same time, I think maybe people were more outraged at the fact of when he did come out, one, that he is gay, and maybe they were also outraged because he was actually married to a woman. So maybe that just made people mad.
Probably. Because it probably felt to a lot of people at the time almost like a person living a life of a lie. Do you know what I mean? And then suddenly being like, this is the real me. Whereas now we're more accepting. Back then it's probably like, what?
Yeah, because you still see it now where people marry somebody of the opposite sex and then come out a few years later and go, actually, I'm gay, or I'm bi, or I'm trans, or I'm non-binary, or I'm whatever.
It was like that weird thing for Fame where that guy from the Bachelor series went on and was like with all those different women and stuff like that, and then suddenly it came out that he like was hanging around in gay saunas and shit like that, and then he was like, oh yeah, and I'm gay. And it's like, why was you doing the Bachelor? And it was just all
fame,
for fame.
Money.
Yeah, fame, money, and recognition. It was, he kept his sexuality hidden because he knew he could get fame from it, fame and glory, I suppose. Not that I'm saying that Elton John did the same thing, but different time, different people. I suppose it was not heard of for, someone to be out gay and doing all of that back then. So I'm not painting him out to be the person that's like, I must hide this, otherwise I shall not be famous. I think it was just more people aren't ready for that yet.
His career didn't really suffer though.
No, I don't think it did either. He's still a very rich man, still very successful. And he's done a lot as well, actually. So, I mean, I take the piss out of him quite a bit. But in reality, he started up the Elton John AIDS Foundation way back, I believe it was in 1992. And he did a lot with Princess Diana, obviously at the time, because she was huge on the AIDS.
Oh, she was huge on HIV and AIDS and stuff like that. Well, she was like was she not one of the first people to be photographed shaking hands with somebody that had HIV and AIDS without a glove?
Yes, so
and
she
people
did.
were shocked and outraged.
Yeah.
It's like you can't. Obviously,
No
at the
glove,
time
no
they didn't
mask.
really. I don't think they knew that you couldn't contract it.
They thought it was transmissible, and it originally was heralded as some sort of like type of gay cancer. And then they thought it was transmissible through air and pathogenically. And then obviously now we understand a lot more about it. But yeah, he also was one of the first to legally get married. So that's another thing as well that he did that kind of pushed it all to the limelight. And it's such a weird one as well, because people always turn around in today's modern world and sort of talk about gay men and flamboyancy and all those sorts of things. There ain't nobody more flamboyant than Elton John.
No.
And yet nobody ever turns around and mentions him or sort of pays him in that sort of limelight.
I think maybe it's because he was around in, was it like the 70s and 80s?
Yeah.
And everything was kind of flamboyant then. So you didn't just have Elton John, and I'm about to list off a bunch of gay people, but who else did you have in the 70s and 80s? You had Boy George.
Yeah.
Elton John, David Bowie.
Yeah, you did.
Queen, so Freddie. And then if you tip the scale and go over to like Kiss and stuff like that, I know none of them are gay that I'm aware of. but everything was flamboyant. Like the outfits were outrageous, like, and crazy. So I suppose really maybe they didn't think he was gay.
No, I guess not. I suppose when the norm is
It's of its time.
Well, when the norm is to be wearing platform heels and spandex and you're a straight man, that is it's probably then very difficult to locate somebody else within and amongst that crowd and go, oh, that person's, gay. I suppose it would be quite difficult to understand that. We look back at it now and go, how could you not tell? But of the time, they all had it.
They all
were
had
in
it.
Perms,
Whether
high
they were
makeup.
gay or straight, they all had the same
Yeah.
haircuts. They all had the same ridiculous clothes and shoes. They all look the same. So how would you know if everybody's dressing the same way?
Does the fashion, you see?
Yeah, but if everybody's like you said, if everybody's dressing in the same way, then how would you know?
Yeah, exactly. It's very difficult to understand. I mean, so speaking of which, of flamboyancy, and also how people couldn't understand, there is Freddie Mercury, who also, rest in peace, passed. But the reality, again, is sort of that thing of the name was Queen.
Yeah.
And there was a high level of flamboyancy to their performances. So when he came out, I think to those that were not truly supporters of Queen, I think they were shocked. But I think those that had supported Queen from day
people always
one,
had an inkling, because Freddie nearly, from anything that you read about his life, he never really presented with a woman by his side and stuff like that.
No.
If he did, it was his best friend. But it's, and then I think I feel like there was always rumours. I feel like there was always rumours about Freddie's sexuality anyway.
Yeah.
So I think everybody knew before he said anything.
I think so as well. We watched that movie that time, and that was really good at sort of like showcasing what his life was like. But it's also one of those weird things where he never actually openly admitted to being gay ever. But obviously, I think the world heralded him as like a queer icon, the whole sort of like leather and spandex and the sort of like mustache, which has become infamous in queer culture. Whilst he never admitted it, whilst whatever happened backstage or whatever happened in private life, it kind of, he became a cultural icon, a gay icon, and sort of set the ball rolling, I suppose, within our community. And I suppose also across the world as well, because they were world famous.
Queen.
Yeah.
This was Elton John.
Well, yeah, so was Elton John, but I think I think that there was more of a shockwave from Queen than there was, because that was rock. That was, breaking the rules. That was at a time of being like punk and being different and stuff. Whereas Elton John's, always sort of sang in the same kind of neoclassical style. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of like punk out there, completely unique and different, there was David Bowie. You see, we sort of tend to spot a trend with a lot of these, because a lot of them now, we kind of look back on and see them as cultural icons, really. We see them as sort of like the makers of style in some ways.
And music and stuff like that as well. Like they've led the charge in musical culture and different sounds and different technologies that they use to create their music.
Well, exactly, because all of them were very different, but yet all of them created something unique that others then aspired to.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So, if you take a look at like Queen, I don't know any who in today's modern day of rock would not want to emulate that sort of success story of rock.
The rock, the face of rock changed after you had Queen, and people started, bands that came in would do things a lot differently after Queen. So
that's what I mean. And then if you take a look at someone like David Bowie, who has effectively inspired a lot within the alternate music scene. I mean, even if we just take a look at someone like Halsey, for example, their look is David Bowie.
David Bowie inspired.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? Very sort of like alien futuristic, that even now Halsey's only young, and yet they look exactly the same as David Bowie did back then. And you're like, okay.
It's the same as anybody that you look at, though. Like when I know, obviously, getting off the gay topic, but Michael Jackson obviously influenced pop culture in the way that pop music went, and And that element changes as you go on. So then if we then jump to, so we're saying David Bowie would have inspired a nation to alternative music, and then all of a sudden we've had this flip where Billie Eilish has come in and it's completely changed the face of it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So she will go down as an icon for changing the face of alternative music after David Bowie. So, there's always people that come, but it's always somebody who has to stick out.
But it's weird, though,
to change it.
because we kind of look at this in a sort of, again, not to try and stay on this a little bit too late, but in the same theme, someone like Billie Eilish uses the inspiration of her time period, which is the 90s. So, we just recently went to her concert in Manchester, and people are walking around in bucket hats, baggy clothing, goth makeup, and I'm like,
it's like
it's the 90s.
It's not just that, though. It's like a cross between goth and like a Mancunian sort of, and it was really weird.
It was weird. Whereas someone like Halsey, who's our age, would look to someone more like David Bowie and use theirs, which was more 80s inspired, kind of futuristic, music of alternative.
I think all of it's sort of gone out of the window, and they've just like everybody's just smashing their own styles together.
No, I think people look at the
80s
generation
like
of their childhood. I really do, and that's what they tend to emulate.
You're talking about clothing there. You're not talking about the music.
Well, yeah, music and style. I think it's all the
different.
same.
No, it's not. It's different. Your style of music is different to the way that you dress.
Yeah.
For certain people, it is.
Yes.
Let's move on to Sir Ian McKellen, shall we?
Sir Ian McKellen.
A living legend.
The living legend. Most notably, in my eyes, for playing Gandalf.
Oh, no.
What was it for yours?
It would be Magneto.
Oh, of course, he played Magneto in X-Men, didn't he? The original Magneto.
The original Magneto.
I mean, we kind of downplaying his actual acting talents here.
We are, but that's because we're nerds and we love like sci-fi and stuff like that. I mean, he's a
well-decorated actor.
Has he done Broadway? And he's done
Broadway. He's a thespian actor, so he used to do a lot of Shakespeare plays.
That's it, Shakespearean actor.
But across the entire broader spectrum, he has been in so much, done so much.
Oh no, he's a huge like TV personality and
we're just like Magneto and Gandalf.
We're like Magneto and Gandalf. Well done, Sir Ian McKellen. That's all we care about.
But also probably one of the most outspoken as within all of this.
He doesn't keep quiet when it comes to gay rights and activism.
Guess not. And the thing is, he's also one of those who never actually ever denied it and never sort of hid his sexuality from day dot, from what I'm aware. In all interviews, he has always stated who he is as being an out proud gay man, regardless of any other situation, regardless of wherever he is. I mean, he's a co-founder of Stonewall, so there's one of his many prestigious accolades. He's also a British LGBTQ rights lobbyist. He's also part of so many charitable organisations such as LGBTQ History Month, Pride of London, Oxford Pride, Gay Gloss, LGBTQ Foundation, F-Flag, Albert Kennedy Trust. The list goes on and on, literally. He's so well recognised. And I think
loved as well.
Yeah, one of my favourite people. You imagine him to be stone bear crazy, just like a mad person.
And tells you exactly how it is. Like, there's no airs or graces about it. Like.
The male version of Miriam Margolyes. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. If you put those two in a room together and did an interview, you're in for a right laugh.
Very good. It'd be so much fun. I could really imagine it. And one of my personal favourites again is Stephen Fry. I know you're not a huge fan of Stephen Fry.
I'm not a fan of Stephen Fry. I don't hate the guy. I just don't. Just not a fan.
I find I like Stephen Fry because there is a certain sense of wit and intelligence that comes about.
Maybe that's why I don't. Because
no,
I'm
not saying I'm
intelligent.
Smart. No, I'm not saying I'm smart, but I'm saying that it's kind of like he reels it in order to kind of make stupidity feel stupid, if you know what I mean. So it's like people that sort of turn against gay, straight, or whoever, he's able to kind of spin that round in a very concise precise manner as an educated man, and also bring comedy to it. You know, he was very young when he first stepped out onto the comedy scene, and I just think he's got a very clever way with words and an ability to kind of bring about sense in this life. You know, he's not going to turn around and just be like on the opposite side, the left side or the right side. He sits firmly in the middle of normality, what is normal, but also, you know, he's not going around going, I'm a huge gay man in butler's chaps. He's basically in a suit saying, this is what it's like to be normal and be gay. This is what it's like to be part of the LGBTQ life. You don't have to paint us as exaggerations of X and Y. It just is what it is.
No, he is the opposite of when you look at people like the flamboyancy of Elton John and David Bowie and Freddie Mercury, and then obviously Stephen Fry sits at the other end of the spectrum where he always looks like a businessman. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just think it's this. He represents the serious and comedical side of the LGBTQ.
Maybe that's why I just don't find him funny. But then, you know, you throw Alan Carr into the mix and I'm pissing myself.
Oh, well, how can we not have Alan Carr on this list, considering that I have been both compared to and associated with Alan Carr since he first stepped out on the scene.
When you used to wear your false glasses and people were like, you look like Alan Carr.
Oh my God, all the time. And then you'd be like, great, so I've got shit teeth, overweight, but apparently I'm hilarious, so that works out for me.
Yeah.
And do you know what? It wouldn't be so bad if I had Alan Carr's money, but, you know, that's not happening, is it? Yeah, I love Alan Carr. I remember his first comedy sketches that he did, and then I remember the first TV shows that he did as well.
Chatty Man.
No, not Chatty Man. He was on something before Chatty Man, and if anyone can remember it, please put it in the comments below.
Was he not on something like
It was with Justin Lee.
Was it not with like 8 out of 10 cats or something?
No,
like that?
it was a co-presenter with Justin Lee Collins, and it was a TV show, and it was on Channel 4, and I can't remember what it was called, but I remember distinctly, and I believe you won't be able to find this anymore because it's been taken down, but he did an impersonation of Grace Jones, Pull Up to My Bumper, and the problem is he painted really dark makeup on himself.
Okay.
But so that's probably why you won't find it anywhere.
No, you won't find that.
But you know, we're going all the way back here, and it was hilarious the way that he did it. It was not malicious. It was not meant to be a form of racism. It was just comedy, and I think that was the thing which sparked people sort of like, oh my God, you know what I mean? He's both daring, bold, and funny, and then that sort of pushed him further, and he got Chatty Man shortly afterwards. And then obviously RuPaul's Drag Race as well in the
Alongside
UK.
another gay legend. Graham Norton.
I remember watching Graham Norton years ago.
Oh, I don't think I've ever not seen Graham Norton.
Yeah.
He's been on the TV since I was little, I'm sure he has.
Because he had like that thing in New York where it was Graham Norton's New York Night or something. I
don't remember that, but I remember he's always had his show on BBC.
Yes, always had the one on BBC, but he has had so many throughout the years, and I used to watch him way back in the 90s, remembering it. And he was another one as well who you could just friggin'...
Oh, you knew.
You just knew. You knew. And I mean, he's never hidden it neither, to be honest with you. Which has got to be a difficult thing being a man from Ireland where religion is very prominent. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
of his age as well.
Still haven't pushed through all of the equal rights stuff in Ireland yet.
No,
so
that's what I mean.
But I guess if he didn't really live there from a young age, because he's like what we just said, he's always been on our TVs through BBC in some form.
Yeah, London,
so he must have always been living in
New
England,
York, America.
not in Ireland. Yeah. So
he spent a lot of time in America. But yeah, I remember him as well. I remember him very clearly. And again, I suppose when I look back at when you look back and you see just how many gay people there were in your life, and you think to yourself, oh, there has been a lot of gay people on TV, but it just wasn't widely spoke on.
No, I don't think it was spoke on at all.
No, but they were gay, and some of them openly admitted as well, but it just wasn't mentioned. Even in Graham Norton's show, it was comedy. And he had guest people on and all the rest of it, and they all laughed and joked. But it was never once mentioned about him being gay.
No, it's that's not. I think it is it?
Every now and again, he makes a little
No,
joke about it.
did they make little? Does he make?
Yeah,
little
every
sly
now and again, he
comments
makes a
now?
little joke where someone says something about, like, I remember one celebrity turned around and said something about breasts, and he was just like, not for me. Do you know what I mean? And carried on going. So there is very small little clicks in there, but it's
Yeah, I don't think
not-
there ever used to be though.
No, not
Maybe
as far
there
as
is
I can
more
remember.
now.
Yeah, probably. Strange, isn't it? But one of the and here's right. Okay, so in America at the moment in time, the Supreme Court is not the Supreme Court. Texas lawmakers are wanting to ban kids from going to drag shows, aren't they? Because they're saying it's not appropriate.
Yeah, because there's this whole thing over the fact that they don't want their kids going to see drag shows, but yet they can carry
guns and shoot people
and shoot up schools.
Yeah, it's fine for you to die by the gun, but not to go and see a deadly drag queen.
Yeah. How dare you see a deadly drag queen, but you can go around and shoot
maybe
other
if the drag
children.
queen was talking about guns, do you think that they would be more susceptible?
To what? Being a drag queen?
Yes, to all of it, to letting their kids go and see them. It's a question mark,
I don't
isn't it? I don't know.
Let's
but
not
anyway,
go there.
we're not going into too much politics.
Yay, drag queens, no guns.
But when I was a kid, do you remember watching Lily Savage on TV? Yeah. And the thing is, she was Paul O'Grady, but Lily Savage. She was the first drag queen I remember seeing on TV, and one of the very few, apart from Dame Edna Everage.
I could never really remember Dame Edna. I could always remember Lily Savage.
Yeah, she was the only one on our TV screens for yonks. Way before RuPaul's Drag Race even got a frigging glitch on the scene.
Years, yeah.
She was out in the early 90s. So, like, people... Well...
I don't remember what it was. I know, obviously...
Blankety Blank.
Oh, it was Blankety Blank.
Yeah,
oh,
Blankety
shit.
Blank. Blankety Blank.
Yeah, with Lily Savage. Who people will know as Paul O'Grady.
Yeah, you'll know now as Paul O'Grady.
For
And
the
he does a
love of
lot
dogs.
for the love of dogs. So he does a lot with that. But before he was Paul O'Grady, he was Lily Savage.
He was a drag queen.
Drag queen for the longest time, and he'd worked his way up in the clubs as well. So he's Liverpudlian, but he'd worked his way up in Manchester, being his kind of like maternal home, if you will, really. And did a lot of drag throughout the gay scene in Manchester, which is obviously bigger than Liverpool at the time. And then got onto TV because it was entertaining, had such a quick wit and a fast sort of reaction to it. Now, Paul O'Grady reminds me of what actual drag is.
Oh,
which was
like
to
original
be
drag.
harsh, cruel, a total bitch.
Not very good makeup.
Not very good makeup.
Good outfits.
Not great hair. Walking around with a lit cigarette and a drink.
Yes, that was it. Yes, she always had a cigarette in her mouth.
Always had a fag in her mouth.
Yeah.
Always. And it's one of those things where, I look at RuPaul's Drag Race now and I love it. I love that show so much.
Oh yeah, but it shows you how much drag has evolved from Lily Savage to
it shows you that
Drag
difference.
Race.
It shows you that the glamour and the beauty and the sort of like entertainment side of it. Whereas Lily Savage is my true form of drag.
I'd love to see Lily Savage go on and do an episode of Drag Race and be a guest judge in the UK Drag Race.
It'll never happen.
I know it won't because Paul doesn't dress up as Lily
No.
anymore that I'm aware of.
Well, he sent her off to a nunnery, so that's where she lives now.
Oh, is that what he said?
Well, because he turned around and said that after the second time she tried to kill him, he had to send her away because he had 2 heart attacks.
Oh, that was
playing
it.
Lily Savage.
Yeah.
So he said Lily tried to kill him twice, and after the second time he was like, "No, you've got to go to the nunnery." And he never played her again after all of that.
Oh god.
But yeah, that's my drag, and we've had that since we were kids. Little kids.
And nobody seemed to have an issue with it. See, this is what I don't understand. So nobody had an issue with Paul O'Grady
Nope.
as Lily Savage,
Nope.
as a drag queen.
Nope.
Yet all of a sudden we now have an issue with drag queens.
I know, tell me about
In
it.
2022. It's like, guys,
We had it back in the 90s.
You had it in the 90s. Why do you now have a fucking problem with
And
it?
it was more guttural and visceral than what we've got now. Now
It
it's
was
all
brutal.
about freaking love and peace. She used to come on and call people bald, fat, and ugly. I'm like, oh, okay, now we have to be peace, love, and plans. And that's still not good enough. But back in the day, she used to come on and bitch slap people. And they'd be like,
It'd be
oh, that's
alright.
Lily.
That was fine. No, that was Lily. It's,
Smoking a
we
cigarette
like her
and drinking
anyway. It's
heavily.
alright. So it doesn't matter. She put a fagger out on you. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
okay.
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry. It's just the way Lily is.
That's what I mean. I just can't. I can't deal with it. And I guess in this country, though, we've always kind of had an affinity towards drag queens anyway because of what's it called? Pantomime.
Pantomime, yes. And Shakespeare with...
Shakespeare.
There was always men would be dressed as the
women.
female parts and stuff like that in Shakespeare.
So we've kind of always had it. At least I know that's why we'll do. Can you imagine? It would never be a thing in this country where they go, ban the drag queens. So what? Ban pantomime.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it.
The longest English tradition we've got.
Yeah, literally. So they wouldn't do
and
it.
this is why the UK is better than America.
In some aspects. Let's not go with all. Let's not start that fight.
No, we won't. We'll cut it there.
Well, actually, I've got a question for you, actually. So at the start of the last one, you said, who was the first lesbian that I ever remember?
Yes.
And I said Martina.
Yes.
So I'm now going to ask you the question. Who is the first gay man you ever remember?
Graham Norton.
Fair.
Who was yours?
I don't actually know. That I knew was gay, it wouldn't be Graham Norton because I wasn't sure. I wouldn't have been sure when I was younger.
No,
drag queen, it would definitely obviously have been Lily.
Yeah.
But gay man, maybe George Michael.
No, mine was Graham Norton. I remember watching him when I was at least like 10 years old. So I was very young.
Yeah, I remember seeing him when he was younger, but I don't think I'd have put him under the gay category. Anyway,
that's been the gay one. That's been all of the gays.
All the gay men on your birthday.
Well, it had to be, didn't it, really?
Obviously.
We're going to do the lesbians on my birthday. What kind of image does that set up? Yes, that's been the gay one. It's been nice to sort of relive back through these and to see some of these people because it does sort of put you in that memory scope of gay media has always been a thing and it's going to continue to get bigger and bigger as time goes on. But we can still remember them as being the iconic legends that they once were.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the opener to what we've got now. Always. And that's where we always have to remember it, is remember your history because the future's going to come by so fast. Mm-hmm. And on that inspiring note, people, I have been Douglas. I know, sorry. Anyway, we will do the closeout now. So, as I always say, thank you for listening to this podcast. If you really liked this podcast, you can support us in many, 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 many different ways. First of all, is by leaving a like on this video, this YouTube video, and subscribe as well.
Hit the bell button for notifications.
And then you can also throw yourselves into our Twitter @SureThing and hit follow there for all of our updates and little comical surprises and witticisms of notes. You can also follow us on Buy Me a Coffee, where you can indeed buy us a coffee, because without coffee...
I fall asleep.
Oh, that's cute. You can also sub to us on Patreon as well to get tier 1 level Discord benefits. And of course, naturally, just say hi to us when you're passing us in the street. Y'all know who we are.
They don't even know what we look like.
No, they don't. And anyway, I've been Doug, you've been Kaylee, and that's it from us. We will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.